Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. Find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel. And real quick, wanted to just say while you're over there on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to the podcast, if you can, just give a quick like, subscription, comment, anything you can to help with the algorithm. Gets it out to more people, and we're just trying to grow the podcast, and we need you guys to help us do that. Thank you guys so much for helping us there. Today I'm excited. We're going to be doing our final rookie rankings. Unfortunately, I am solo yet again. My co-host Dale, he's got his play that he's been rehearsing for the last couple of months finally, so he's doing all that stuff here this week. And I'm left on my own. I'm flying this ship solo, but we are going to be giving our final rookie rankings. Dale sent me his, so I have his as well for the quarterback and running back positions post-draft. And, there's a lot of guys that got drafted, and not even all of them are ranked, in my opinion, because, a lot of people will give you full rankings for a lot of these guys. And I'm not going to do that because, someone like a Clayton Tune or a Jake Haener or a Dorian Thompson-Robinson, do they have potential value long-term? Yes, but you're not going to take them in the top 3 rounds of your rookie drafts. If you want to take a shot on anybody in the 4th round, I'm not going to tell you no, because at that point it's a complete crapshoot. The 3rd round's already a crapshoot, but the 4th round and the 5th round, if you have that many in your rookie drafts, it's a complete guess at that point. These guys are not good enough to go in the top 3 rounds. So pretty much everybody we're going to be talking about here with these tiers is going to be guys that I would feel comfortable taking in the top 3 rounds. So, that said, that's the kind of premise behind it. And we're going to jump in with the quarterback position. So starting off, and this is where Dale and I are pretty much in lockstep here with the quarterback position. Post-draft, it's kind of Anthony Richardson is the number 1 guy. Dale still has him as his number 1 guy in this tier, but tier 1 is going to still be Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. Dale also includes Bryce Young in his tier 1, and I'm assuming it has to do with the floor of Bryce Young. It's a decent landing spot with a decent coaching staff. And, I understand the argument for it. The downside is I don't know what he brings to fantasy football. So I do have Bryce Young in tier 2 for myself. I'm not sold on Bryce Young being a top 12 guy ever in his career. And if you're drafting Bryce Young in the 1st round of a rookie draft and you're never going to get a top 12 quarterback performance from him, to me, it seems like a wasted pick. So I do have him a tier down from the other 2 guys, CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson. I do believe those 2 guys have very high ceilings. Anthony Richardson could be the number 1 overall with the athletic profile that he has. CJ Stroud, I think he's one of the best pocket passers coming out in a long time, and I think that he's going to show that in his career. So are there going to be years? CJ Stroud, I think, is a little bit less safe than an Anthony Richardson if Anthony Richardson can keep a job, just because of how high the rushing floor for Anthony Richardson is going to be in the NFL. So CJ Stroud, with him being more a pocket passer, is going to have more ups and downs. So that's why I'm personally taking Anthony Richardson number 1 if it's me, and CJ Stroud number 2, but I would honestly be fine getting either one of these guys. And again, Dale has him as Bryce Young in his tier 1 as well. Tier 2 for Bryce Young for me in his own tier. Tier 2 for Dale is the same as my tier 3, Hendon Hooker and Will Levis. Now, I would definitely be taking Will Levis over Hendon Hooker, and I get that Will Levis is not the perfect prospect. I understand that, but the fact that he went 33 overall to the Tennessee Titans, one, it's a really good landing spot for him personally. if any coaching staff is going to be able to fix Will Levis and get him on the right track mentally, it's going to be Mike Vrabel down in Tennessee. So I do like that landing spot quite a bit. I love Hendon Hooker. The problem is, he's still got the injury. Why reach on Hendon Hooker? You know what I mean? He's not going to play at all this year, and there's talks about them extending Jared Goff long term. If they make a playoff run, I could definitely see that happening. I just think that the path to the field is easier for Will Levis at this point in time, being the second pick in the second round versus Hendon Hooker, who was the 5th pick for the Lions in this last draft. If they really liked Hendon Hooker, they could have taken him in the second round. They had the opportunity there. They took Sam Laporta with the 3rd pick in the second round. So, they passed on Hendon Hooker an entire round, took a couple other guys there. And to me, the investment there means that they don't really see much long term, but there's always that potential, right? And I do think Hendon Hooker is going to be a solid backup for Jared Goff when he does get healthy, but is he ever going to be able to get a chance to be a starter? This is like Matt Corral from last year. Dude probably will never get a chance to be a starter in the NFL, and I think he has serious talent. He was my number 1 quarterback last year, gets injured in training camp, and just never even got a chance to play for the Carolina Panthers last year. I think that they really did have something there, but, when you're injured and you never get playing time, that's just how it goes in the NFL. So Hendon Hooker, I love him still. I'm not going to slight Hendon Hooker at all, but I have to be realistic and say that Will Levis does have a real chance to start sometime in the next year or so. And yeah, I don't think Hendon Hooker does necessarily. Now, tier 3, Dale has Clayton Tune, Dorian Thompson, Robinson, Stetson Bennett, and Jake Haener. Again, these guys are unranked for me. Stetson Bennett is the only one that is a little bit interesting for me. He went to the Los Angeles Rams, and the reason behind that is I think that the Rams, could use a potential quarterback. Matt Stafford has talked about retirement. He's banged up almost every year now. And, he was an Iron Man for many, many years in the NFL. And the last couple of years, he's just been hammered by injury. So it's just, that's the way it goes. Once you start getting a little bit older, and Matt Stafford is a little bit older, your body just starts to fall apart a little bit. So I do like the potential that Stetson Bennett has. I mean, DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson, he goes to back up, Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. And yeah, I do think that I guess if Watson is completely cooked, there's the chance that he could become or get playing time. But again, I'm not sold on that. I'm not taking that in the first 3 rounds of my rookie drafts. So if you want to take him with the last couple picks, feel free. But at that point, it's, like I said, a complete crapshoot. And this is even in Superflex as well. I'm not taking any of these guys. Stetson Bennett, I might take at the end of the 3rd. But again, that's pretty much it here. So let us know your thoughts on the quarterbacks over on Twitter, on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. And we're going to jump into running backs. And I'm trying to do this pretty quickly. There's without the back and forth, it's hard to, give some of the insight into how Dale's rankings kind of fall here. But yeah, I'm doing my best here. So I appreciate you guys joining me for a solo podcast. I'm excited for when Dale will be back. And we were trying to get another guest on, but just ultimately did not work out. So unfortunate there, but when you're small, man, this is why we need you guys to help us pump out the content and help us with the algorithm. If we can get the podcast out to more people, get more people following, yes, they're more likely to come on. Nobody wants to come on for a small-time podcast, whatever that means. So, want to get some of these guests on. There's some really cool people out there in the community, but, unfortunately, some of them are a little flaky. So that's my thoughts there. All right, now running back. This is a pretty easy breakdown here. For me, I have Bijan Robinson in a tier of his own. This is an amazing landing spot. Goes to the Atlanta Falcons. Gets to get paired with Arthur Smith. And the one thing that I've seen a lot of, oh, they were already really good, and why did they need Bijan Robinson? They didn't need Bijan Robinson. But imagine if a really, really good player, like Tyler Algier was very good last year, don't get me wrong. He's not even on the same level as Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson might be like 10 levels ahead of him at this point in their careers. So what is that going to do for this already really good run attack? And, teams were trying to stop the run against them last year. There's a game where they had 7 pass attempts, and the teams just could not stop the rushing attack. Whatever Arthur Smith has cooking up over there for the run game, it's working. So Bijan Robinson is going to absolutely feast. He's going to be a stud. A lot of people are putting him on as their RB number 1 overall, ahead of guys like CMC and Jonathan Taylor. Again, I don't want to do that just yet. I still have him as like the number 3 guy. I like it a lot, but I do need to just see it in an NFL field before I'm completely sold. Like right now, I've got one foot in the door, but I just want to see the final game where he just shows how special he truly can be at an NFL level. Dale also has Jahmyr Gibbs in his tier number 1. I have Gibbs in a kind of tier by himself. So I have Bijan and then Gibbs, both of those guys in their own tiers, because I do believe Gibbs is extremely talented. And, maybe Dale's saying that the gap between Robinson and Gibbs is pretty small. Gibbs goes to the Lions. It's a pretty good landing spot there. But, he's got to share with David Montgomery. How is the touchdown volume going to shake out? That's the only thing with Gibbs. I think Gibbs is going to be very good. Is he going to be good enough to be a top 12 dynasty running back right away? I don't think that David Montgomery is that special, but he's not a bad running back. That's the one thing. So if Jahmyr Gibbs is used more as the primary pass catcher, he should be fine. Like if he's Swift, only healthy all the time, man, he's going to be very, very good for fantasy football. Top 5 dynasty running back. So I understand why Dale has him right behind Bijan Robinson. The only thing is this Lions coaching staff good enough to utilize these guys as we kind of want them to in this upcoming season? So I do have Gibbs just a slight tier behind Bijan Robinson. But yeah, that's kind of the difference there. Like I'm never taking Gibbs over Bijan Robinson, which is the whole point of the tiers, right? If you have them in the same tier, you're saying I'm comfortable taking Gibbs over Robinson, and I am not. So that's the only difference there. But I can understand the very slight difference there. In tier 2 for Dale, he had Kendre Miller and Zach Charbonnet, not letting the Seattle Seahawks landing spot deter him from Charbonnet. Kendre Miller was always my 3B in this draft class. Goes to New Orleans. I love it. For reference, in my next tier behind Gibbs, I have Kendre Miller as my number 3 running back in this class as well. So me and Dale are aligned there. But the difference here is I don't have Zach Charbonnet in this tier. I actually have Tyjae Spears, and this one scares me a little bit. Tyjae Spears is very electric, but we found out he has no ACL in one of his knees, or both knees. I don't really know. And that scares me a little bit. And he could have a very short career in the NFL because of it. There was the Hines Ward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played his entire career without an ACL in his knee. I guess supposedly there's a lot of athletes that can do this, a rare amount of athletes that can do this, but it is possible with maintenance and proper care for everything. It's entirely possible. You're kind of betting on an outlier here, so I understand that, but Tyjae Spears, if he gets the ball early, I think he's going to be very good. Going to Tennessee, I think it's a great landing spot. He has a good opportunity to play a lot alongside Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is going to demand his, right? He's going to get his. But Tyjae Spears is an electric runner. You get him in space, and he's just going to bust off a couple runs there. So we have Zach Charbonnet and Tyjae Spears flipped because in the top tier of Dale's tier number 3 here is Tyjae Spears. So, going into the next tier for both of us, Dale has a fairly large tier 3, and this is where we kind of defer a little bit. Tajay Spears is the number 1 guy here. Devon Achane, whatever his name is, I don't really know. Roshan Johnson, Israel Abanikanda, Chase Brown. That is all his guys in tier number 3. I have a much smaller tier. I have Zach Charbonnet, Devon Achane, and Tank Bigsby. So we're going to talk about the guy that we have in common. Again, we already talked about Tajay and Charbonnet. We just have them flipped. And, I guess I didn't give my reasoning why I'm a little bit more down on Zach Charbonnet. I'm a little bit nervous that, Kenneth Walker is very good, and we all saw that last year. Charbonnet is very good as well, but is he going to be good enough? Are both of these guys going to be good enough for fantasy football to produce for your team? I'm not entirely sure about that, so that's why I'd rather have Tajay Spears, because I think he's going to contribute earlier than Zach Charbonnet, but I do understand not letting that deter you. He is a very, very good running back, and he has second-round draft capital. You ignore the competition aspect, and it's a great situation for Charbonnet. So I understand that right there. Devon Achane, we both have him in tier 3. I've actually done a couple of rookie drafts now, and surprisingly, Achane has been the number 3 running back in almost all of the rookie drafts that I've done. It's crazy. I've done a couple mock drafts. People are really taking Achane extremely highly. I'm not that sold on this guy. He's 5'9", 186. Like, he's a tiny guy. I get it, he goes to Miami, but I kind of broke it down in the day 2 recap that I don't ever see this guy getting double-digit touches for the Miami Dolphins. And, if you're not getting double-digit touches, he's got to be extremely efficient and busting off runs at a rate that is otherworldly. And I don't know if that's possible. Maybe because he's smaller, being 5'9" and 185. Maybe he's going to be a little bit thicker, and it'll mean that he can get on the field a little bit more, but I'm not sold as the number 3 guy in this draft class, which is where I've seen him go. Both Dale and I have him as our number 6 guy, but yeah, taking him number 3 is just a little crazy to me. So that's my thoughts on Achane. We both share him here in this tier, but yeah, it's a little bit rich for my blood. Now, I have Tank Bigsby as the last guy in this tier for me, and the reason why is he's third round draft capital. Goes to a landing spot who loves to use committees. Doug Peterson has always had a committee anywhere he's played, right? They're going to utilize this player, and Tank Bigsby also has a perfect skill set that mirrors Travis Etienne, his teammate, right? Travis Etienne is more of a space runner, and he likes to kind of get the ball in space, bust off tackles, and, does his work that way. Tank Bigsby is going to be used more as the short yardage goal line guy. He's a good runner. He's just a solid player, and the third round draft capital, I think he was like the 4th running back drafted, if I remember correctly. The fact that Jacksonville invested in him so highly, I think that's worth putting him in this upper tier personally. But yeah, I can see he's not the best prospect, but Jacksonville believes in him. So I'm letting the NFL kind of speak for that. Now, the rest of these guys, I don't really have them this highly. My next tier of guys is Roshan Johnson and Chase Brown. The rest of them, like Israel Abanikanda, Zach Evans, Deuce Vaughn, Sean Tucker, Evan Hall, these are all guys that if they're there in the 4th round, I'm willing to take a stab on. Zach Evans may be in the 3rd round just because of the potential upside that he has. Like, he's a very talented player, just doesn't really have it all there mentally, right? But Roshan Johnson, Chase Brown, Roshan is probably in a tier of his own. He's the 4th round running back to the Chicago Bears. He's a big dude, backed up Bijan Robinson, but there's not a ton of competition for him over in Chicago. not amazing draft capital. They could replace him, but he's a big dude. So if he shows out and he's on a team with a good rushing attack, he could have a pretty good season for fantasy football. So he's worth kind of putting above the rest of these guys. Bonaconda, he could replace Michael Carter over in the New York Jets. Chase Brown is the handcuff to Joe Mixon, so there could be some potential upside there. If Chase Brown earns his way onto the field for the third down role, which Samaje Perine filled for so many years for this team, there could be some very good sneaky value for Chase Brown for your fantasy football season. Now, again, Deuce Vaughn, Sean Tucker, Evan Hall, these other guys, I don't really have them ranked because if you want to take them anytime in the 4th, 5th round, I don't care. Like, again, you're betting on an outlier. Sean Tucker has all the injury concerns. Deuce Vaughn has the size concerns. Evan Hall has the draft capital concerns. Abonaconda, he's behind Breece Hall. You know, is he ever really going to get a ton of fantasy value? I don't know. It sucks. That was the one that I was the saddest about on draft night. So, you know, it's kind of a clear top 7, 8 for me. Top 8. Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kendre Miller, Tajay Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Devin Achane, Tank Bigsby, and then Roschon Johnson. And then the rest of those guys, again, give me Sean Tucker is maybe my number 9. Chase Brown is my number 10. And then the rest of them, it's just a crapshoot. So grab whoever you want. But I will say the rookie drafts that I've done so far, the consensus is all over the board on these guys. I've seen, you know, it's almost universally so far, Bijan number 1, CJ Stroud number 2, or sorry, not CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson number 2. Bryce Young is usually number 3, and then it's either Jahmyr Gibbs or like your choice of wide receiver at 4. CJ Stroud's almost always off by 6, so you know it's then the third running back has almost always been Devin Achane, which again super high. Kendre Miller is usually going around 2-4 in a lot of these drafts, which is crazy to me. I mean, he's a 3rd round pick to New Orleans, who has only his face Alvin Kamara there, who's got the legal issues and everything like that. Zach Charbonnet is going ahead of Kendre Miller, and he's got Kenneth Walker to compete with. Tajay Spears is usually going mid-2nd. Roschon Johnson is going mid-2nd. And Tank Bigsby, I think, is falling usually to the end of the 2nd, which is crazy. So, yeah, it's all over the board. I've seen these guys kind of flip-flopped in a lot of mock drafts, consensus. We're still waiting for things to kind of shake out consensus-wise, but you're here for my rankings, not consensus. And consensus gets too wrapped up in narrative a lot of the time. So we're going to get these out here early so that you guys know how to tackle your rookie drafts that you've got coming up. So again, let me know your thoughts over on YouTube, on Twitter. I'm going to be coming out tomorrow with the receivers and tight ends and giving our final rankings there. Tight ends are interesting at least, but yeah, the wide receivers, man, I love these guys. There's a lot of sneaky value here in my opinion, and I am excited to talk about those guys tomorrow. So until next time, thank you guys for joining me. Again, find me on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. And yeah, just help us with the algorithm. Appreciate you guys. You guys are the best out there. Truly appreciate you guys listening. So until next time, thank you guys so much. Have a good night.